The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of Green Acres and our guests. These general gardening tips and suggestions may work for you, as well as those from alternative sources. When using any garden products or tools, read and follow all label directions. And learn how to make your yard summer strong at bewatersmart.info.
The Green Acres Garden Podcast is the podcast dedicated to helping gardeners hone their growing skills while we celebrate our love of plants. So whether you're new to growing or a seasoned gardener, you're sure to learn something new. Join the fun as we have conversations with world-class growers, passionate green thumbs, and professional garden experts from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Listen every week. We'll answer questions you didn't know you had. We have a great little episode for you this week that will take you all the way from the valleys of southern Mexico to the alpine regions of the Northern Hemisphere. Austin, I'm talking poinsettias to pine trees, spruce firs, and beyond, buddy. We got a holiday episode, if there ever was one. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Let's welcome Austin Blank.
Hello, season's greetings. It is that time of year. I love it. I'm feeling the spirit of the holidays. And yes, it's time. We've never done this.
We haven't.
We've never talked specifically about Christmas trees and poinsettias. And also, I just switched how I'm saying that. Now I say poinsettia. I used to say poinsettia. I don't know what's right anymore.
Yeah, tomato. But we're going to have some fun. We'll get right into it. I'm your host, Kevin Jordan, back in for another great episode. We have one in studio today.
Yes.
And first, let's get right into it. Poinsettias, whatever you want to call them. Euphorbia pulcherrima. Beautiful plant.
The Latin name?
That is, yeah, they're in the Euphorbiaceae family. Euphorbs, as I like to call them, good friends of mine. No, it's a huge family of plants with nearly 7,000 different species and many more cultivars and varieties within those. Pretty cool. So in the spurge family, wide range. Yeah, so they have, some of them will look like weird cactus.
What's like a famous euphorb? Is there a big one?
Poinsettias, buddy.
Oh, okay. That's the biggest one?
Yeah, no, there's tons. You'll see them often in the cactus and succulent section, and you'll see them also. A lot of perennial flowers are euphorbs as well. They're a pretty widespread one, and so this is one of the bangers. What's kind of cool is poinsettias. They are one of the best-selling potted plants in the United States. Did you know that, Austin?
I didn't. That's cool.
Yeah, so they sell more than just about any other single variety of plant. They're pretty cool. So like I said, they're native to southern Mexico and the valleys down there. And in the wild, they can get up to actually 10 feet tall.
What? I want to see that.
That would be pretty cool. And so what's wacky is humans got their hands on them. And since maybe from the 1950s, give or take, people have been hybridizing them with incredible results. Now with well over 100 different varieties that have sprang forth from that traditional, which is still the most popular, that blood red, that one. Crimson red, which is so beautiful, right? Great decoration, right?
Yeah. I got to go see the growing grounds.
I was going to ask you about that. Can we talk about that in a bit?
Yeah. So I got to see, Green Acres sells, they grow their own at Matsuda's, and this year I made a video about it that maybe you've seen, maybe some of our listeners have seen. And I got to go talk to Ricardo at Matsuda's, and he is the head grower there. And he showed me the greenhouses full of them. So you're talking about all these, there's 100 different versions.
Pinks, purple, white, cream, yellow, peach, marbled.
I know,
incredible.
It's surprising.
Did you get to see all those there?
They're beautiful. So they grow 12 different varieties. And this year, Ricardo and his team grew 10,000 different plants.
Individual
plants, of 12 different varieties. And there were some new ones that they were adding to the mix this year. It was really, really cool. And they were stunning. They're beautiful. So it's more than that traditional red one, like you're saying. I actually really like some of the orange peach colored ones.
That's rad.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing kind of what's out there this season. And what's really interesting with poinsettias is they're a little unique. Mm-hmm. So the what you think, those big colorful, looks like leaves. It's actually not quite a leaf, not quite a flower. They're called bracts. Huh. It's a modified leaf that's part of the flower, I guess. So bracts are modified leaves that aren't actually the flowers. The true flower of a poinsettia is that those small little greenish yellow little bits in the center there. I think that's the cyathea. is the more technical term, right? And so that's the actual flower. That's what contains the male and female organs where you're going to have all that pollen generated. And so it's pretty cool. So what we see is those beautiful colors. Those are the bracts of them. And so we want those to be nice, beautiful, and healthy. So when you're picking one out, actually, I have some tips and tricks here that I'm going to give you for anyone shopping to what to look for one.
Cool.
So that way you can pick the healthiest one.
Let's go over that.
But one more reason, if you weren't already satisfied with poinsettias, is a myth I need to dispel, Austin.
What is the myth?
Okay, so we're myth busting today. So contrary to popular belief, poinsettias are not poisonous.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, wait, I've heard this. I was talking to somebody about my video, and they're like, those are bad for cats or something like that.
Both can be true. Yes and yes.
Oh, okay. So they weren't wrong.
So they're not poisonous to humans. An Ohio State study found that a typical 50-pound child would have to eat some 500 to 600 leaves to kind of like and feel some kind of level
negative
of serious nausea. Yeah, right?
Okay.
But however, there is like that latexy, milky white sap that if it's broken, cut, branches are snapped, you're going to see it kind of ooze out. And if you touch that, or if you have animals kind of chewing on them, like a little cat or a little dog, that can cause some nausea. Or some irritation. So
it's legit.
Don't eat them, but like don't be afraid. Like if I have it near, like I have a 3-year-old and some babies. If they walked up and kind of like started, because actually last week I had my spathiphyllum, my peace lily, was under attack
by
one of the twins.
Oh no!
yeah. One of the twins crawled up and I looked. Oh no! And so I saw him kind of grabbing a leaf, kind of got it into his mouth a little bit. Of course, I pull it out instantly.
Yeah.
But if that happened, you'd be okay. It would take so much. So, I mean, I'm not saying let your children munch on it.
But you're saying that sappy stuff is more potent.
It's just going to be, that's the stuff that's going to cause irritation. So if you don't want anyone chewing on or eating it, but just know that they're safe to have around the house. But don't let your animals or your babies nibble on it freely because it might give them an upset tummy. But so just keep the pets away, and you should be perfectly fine. But when it comes to choosing your poinsettias, there's a couple tips. So maybe it can help people.
I would love to know what your tips are.
So you want to choose an individual that has little or no pollen showing. So in those cyathea, the actual flowers there at the heart of it, you want to look at those if they're like very immature. That's a good sign. Right, that means it's young and it's early on in its days of blooming.
Will the bracts, as you put them, will those also be smaller then? Because
they should be fully formed and should have rich color. They shouldn't be drooping or wilted. That's another thing. This isn't the tip I'm going to give now. Really isn't so much for us because we kind of live in a pretty mild climate. But if you live somewhere where it's really chilly and cold, protect them as you bring them home from any kind of cold, icy, air, because that can have a negative effect.
Okay.
So you want to keep them kind of indoors, 60 to 70 degrees, and that's going to be best for you. When you're choosing one, you're going to just, like most plants, you're going to want it to be, full on all sides, have healthy branching. It shouldn't have leaves shouldn't be falling off it when you pick it up. It should be nice and healthy. So that's you do that, you're going to come home with a nice healthy one. But now it's time to learn how to keep them healthy.
Yes, because this is almost a myth, too, that this is just something you buy for Christmas. It looks pretty. You put it by your door or your fireplace.
Like a statue.
And then,
like a living statue that just dies instantly.
Yeah, and then you throw it away, right?
But it doesn't have to be. And if anything, you definitely want to keep it healthy for while it looks its best. Some people will just keep it healthy for like that month or so and then dispose of it, compost it. But other folks are a little more ambitious because these are just tropical plants that, like I said, in the wild, they're getting 10 feet tall.
That's cool.
You can have fun with them. We'll talk a little bit about their life cycle and kind of maybe how to experiment with them a little bit. So when it comes to just taking care of them when you bring them home, don't put them up against a cold window. Don't have them underneath a blasting, full, heating vent. That's going to dry them out a little bit. But just somewhere where they're getting bright indirect light for several, many hours a day, 5-6 hours a day of bright indirect light. And they don't need to stay inundated with water. But if you never water them, you're going to see some not so great effects. It's going to be negative.
Leaves are going to drop.
So, they want to be. You want to let them dry out, but then once that soil becomes dry and you can kind of feel it, make sure that you fully saturate the soil. Let it drain out. Don't let it sit in that foil or plastic that it came home in. You can repot them in fresh soil, or you can leave them in that soil they're in. But just make sure that where you do bring them to water them, they've got to drain out. So if saturate it fully, let the water drain and drip dry. You can put a tray underneath it or whatever so you don't damage your furniture. But definitely give it a thorough watering, but only when it's dried out.
Love that. Okay. Now let's say I really like the foil. Can I just maybe poke holes in it, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Sometimes you can leave the foil on and poke some holes, or I'll pull that foil off, take it to the sink, let the sink run on it nice and gently till it fully saturates it, and then let it drain out of that container that it's in. And then once it's done drip drying, then I'll put it back in foil or whatever, a tray or something.
But this isn't a plant that you would water in place. This is sure get that full soak going and then put it back.
Yeah, you could water it in place if you repotted it and had a tray, right? Because otherwise it's going to be, if it's just sitting in its own water, that's another thing is people will leave it in that foil, water it, the foil will be like, oh, it'll catch it. But their roots are prone to rotting. So they really want to be moist, but they want to breathe. And so plants breathe a lot with their roots. And so with soil that's inundated constantly with water, they can't, it's like being suffocated. Cool. So let that water drain through, and then don't water it again until you notice that it's dried out a little bit. You just do the old finger test, or you can even lift it up. You can feel, oh, it's light, time to water. And that should get you through. And what's kind of interesting with their life cycle is you'll notice the cyathea, the pollen will develop, they'll kind of swell and do their thing. And then once they'll begin to kind of mature, and you'll see the petals, those bracts, begin to fall away. And it actually will go dormant for the winter time.
Okay.
And so that's when you can kind of trim it back. You can kind of put it somewhere out of the way for a few months. And typically it's not until the warmth of the spring and the longer days that you're going to see some regrowth.
Oh,
and
cool.
so that's when you get them to regrow. You can start them indoors and grow it just like you would many other of your indoor houseplants. Nice sunny window. Keep it like water, just like we mentioned. What's kind of cool about them now is when the folks are bringing them home to enjoy for the holiday season, you don't have to fertilize them, right? So it's kind of like low key maintenance. But by the time you get them to that springtime, it might be ready to repot them, give them a little light nutrition, and then once things get warm enough, you can put it out on a patio.
Oh, nice.
And then have some fun with it. And then to get it to color up again and to have those colored bracts and to have the flowering, the plants, they're sensitive to the photo period. So you have to actually starve them of a certain amount of sunlight in the holiday season. So for flowers, typically around the holiday season, you'd want them dark from 5 in the afternoon to 8 in the morning, starting I think in October.
Okay.
So you have to cut the light, put them somewhere. People will have boxes for them. They'll have a little closet or area. It's kind of tricky in that regard.
Okay.
But I don't know. We'll have to go back and talk to Ricardo.
Yeah, I would love to ask him about that. What they do to get such beautiful colors.
Because you got to manage that light. And it tricks them into thinking, okay, the season's ending. Time to kind of the the days are shorter, the nights are longer. Time to reproduce.
What a cool plant. Poinsettias. Cool. I love it.
Oh, yeah. I think there's something for everybody out there. Like I said, the reds are cool, but there's so much more to choose from now.
Well, there's ones that are red and green. There's red, there's like variegated color. There's lots of options. It's
pretty cool. And I remember getting them and having them at our home and really enjoying them, but then not ever taking care of them as a kid, honestly.
Yeah, just
and we like
right?
plants, but I didn't even think of it. I thought it was just like a decoration that's going to look cool for a week. Then I didn't realize, you could stretch that week out into like 2 months or better, or whatever. So a little bit of care, like we just mentioned, and I think you can have just the best looking poinsettias in town. It's pretty easy to do.
All right. Good luck to everyone out there. Get some cool poinsettias, and then don't just ignore them. Keep them going and grow them. Stretch that growth period out. I love that.
And a good friend for your poinsettias, we haven't talked about him enough, is the Christmas cactus.
Oh, this is that zygo thing, right?
Formerly known, I think it used to be called the zygo cactus. Now it's like Schlumbergera. They're pretty cool, and I
don't really know about this one. What's up with these?
They're just beautiful. They flower like wild. Same thing. You'll see them in just different variations of pinks and reds and purple. Their leaves kind of come out like these wonderful tentacles and just wild growth. And
but it's a cactus.
It's a cactus. Yeah, okay. You can grow it indoors and. You can treat it most like other cactus, but they kind of tend to like it a little bit more humid, a little bit more consistently moist. But other than that, they're low maintenance. They're very pretty. They're beautiful and colorful. You can have them. It's a great way to kind of like deal with the gray dullness of the winter time. If you're dealing with that, say where you live might be a little bit more drab. We get some sunshine around here, so we're doing pretty good. We're thankful.
We're combating seasonal, what is that again? That has a name, SAD.
Seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so, no, but it's just great color, and they're just pretty. It's one of those things where not a ton of houseplants bloom like this, and this is one of those houseplants it's a succulent. You can bring it inside and have some fun with this. And I just love them. Colorful, easy.
Cool.
What's not to love?
All right. I love that. Now, I do want to take the conversation to, I think what we're all thinking about here is Christmas trees.
Yes.
And how can we better care for, do we need to have better care for our Christmas trees? What do you think we should be doing with the old big cut Christmas tree that we all have in our homes around this time of year?
Well, I think they get a bad rap. I love them. They just, the smell, the look of it. Just being out in a forest, like a pine forest or, spruce and all the conifers. I just love it. So to bring them indoors is kind of like fun for me. It's kind of a weird that you love it. It's like, oh, that's a great holiday where you get to bring the trees inside. But I'll make the case for them. I think they get a bad rap in that there's some ecological benefits that I think one could argue, especially versus a plastic tree, that plastic trees have to be generated in a factory and then shipped thousands of miles. They're made with petroleum products and whatnot. On these farms, I mean, a plastic tree doesn't decompose. It'll be in the landfill forever. And these all biodegrade. You can compost them, turn them back into soil. You can do so much with them. Some communities use them for fighting soil erosion, beach erosion. Just the farms themselves, I know, have moved to much more sustainable practices where the farms kind of boast that the trees it's sustainable in that the trees themselves, the roots, they're all year as the trees are growing, they're breathing out oxygen, they're breathing in and storing carbon dioxide. They filter out and store rainwater and reduce soil runoff, water runoff. It's just, there are some positives there that I think are worth pointing at. And it's also probably part of a healthy forest system where we manage our forests with a bit of intentionality, right? And so I love them. I mean, you're not gonna get me to argue otherwise. So for me, especially compared to a plastic tree. And
I think the argument might be you buy that once, but you're saying no, it's actually part of the system that's a benefit to our forest.
It's a renewable resource,
right?
Is what a tree is, right? Especially when it's responsibly managed and whatnot. It's renewable, and I think a plastic tree is probably not the most renewable thing, potentially, but I'm willing to be, I could be humbled. And from what I understand is for every tree that gets harvested, there's more than 10 that are left behind or that are going to be there for the next season. And then when those are each harvested, there's going to be 10 other ones. So it's like, it just, there's always something there.
And there's habitat for wildlife there.
Yes. And I think there's some benefit to it.
Okay.
I think it's part of just a sustainable ecosystem and part of our society that it's going to have ranching and forestry and whatnot. So it's good. I love it.
Cool.
So for me, I've been seeing what you did. You did a great little video.
I made a little video, saying how Green Acres has Christmas tree lots, and we're selling Christmas trees. So that's cool. I love that. And I'm wondering if you have any advice for people at home to keep them looking good, right? Because they can dry out quickly, right?
Well, are you guys doing fresh cuts down there? Are we doing fresh cuts?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's part of the process.
Get a fresh cut either when you buy it or at home when you can.
They do it when it arrives, and then they do it again when you pick one out.
Nice. But really just it's kind of simple. Keep them in water. Do not let them dry out. We've been pretty good at that at my house years past. But I remember when I was growing up, right before I was in high school, you just get busy. One year we did not, no one watered the tree, and dude, one spark and that thing would have exploded.
Oh no!
Because it was so dry. But it was honestly just water them. Keep them in a bowl of water, healthy amount. We had a dog that would go up there and kind of drink the water, and I think that did not help our situation. Yeah. It was like, I thought just keep it watered. Make sure your animals aren't helping themselves.
What about the fertilizer or the little? Isn't there people put Miracle Grow or something like that in there, right?
Wilt stop. There's some things I think people have experimented with. I've never used it, so I can't personally. But I think there are products potentially out there that may conserve the moisture in your tree, but just
is that what it does?
Keep them watered. keep them away from a heating. Same thing. Keep them away from a heating vent. So if you have a heating vent just blowing hot air on it, that's
going to hurt it?
If it's going to dry you out, dude, it's going to dry your tree out.
Oh.
Just because there's moisture in those leaves. And if there's this warm, dry air just constantly rushing over it, that water is going to just evaporate out of those leaves little by little, and then it's just you have a sad, dry tree. So just keep them soggy in that bowl, and away from a heater and all that kind of stuff. It's the simple things.
Okay,
and a fresh cut, obviously.
A fresh cut's a huge
to me,
part of it.
It makes a big difference.
Interesting.
I used to work at this nursery back in the day when I was looking at different nursery.
Okay,
right. But we would deliver them and then have to and then cut them right when we got to their front doorstep.
How much do you cut off?
It's maybe like
just a little bit,
quarter to half an inch.
Okay,
depending upon how tall you need it. Sometimes you're like, oh, we need more off to get it in the house.
But what is that doing? That's allowing.
I think it's just cutting off the dry little area, and then it's like fresh cells, and then that when you do put it in the water, it's like fresh cutting a rose, and then those fresh little cells can slurp up that water a little bit better, I think, off than the ones that have all kind of dried out.
Gotcha.
At least that's what I'm thinking, and it seemed to work because man, and then you'd come back and the trees would. That we did, like they look good.
I got a question. I just learned about living Christmas trees. I never heard about people buying living, and I didn't even realize there was a distinction between. Of course, the Christmas trees we have don't have roots on them. I never really thought about that, but
I know. I wish you could clone and just root the cut ones right in the soil. That'd be so sweet. Believe me, I've tried. But no, if for the listeners who are listening, because I think that's a great point, Austin. And for anybody who was listening when I was like bringing up the cut Christmas trees, and they're just rolling their eyes like, I don't know, I still don't want to hurt the tree. But dude,
you can get a live
one in its container. They're in soil, just like you'd buy one that you're going to sell. So at first, pick a spot either in your yard or if a loved one's yard where this tree at maturity can fully survive and thrive, right? So look at the size at maturity, how much sun it gets there, how you're going to get water to it, all the things we've talked about in the past. So right tree, right place. But there are some cool spruce trees, the Colorado blue spruce. There's the Alberta spruce that gets used a lot. There's even different pine trees that you can buy where they're in small enough form that you can get it into your home. It's not a massive tree, but you can throw some lights on it, decorate it if you're into that. And then when you're done with the season, instead of having this dead, lifeless thing that you're sad now, you just go out and plant it and go celebrate.
What? And then that's a twist.
Yeah. Or then you plant it and then you decorate it in your yard.
Oh, I was thinking you plant it and you grow it for a few years, and then when it gets to the size you want, you cut it and you bring it into the house. But maybe that's just silly.
No, well that's how Barry did at his house. But he had a property where he had like a couple dozen pine, spruce trees and things that he could have like a little grove. But and someone could do that. But I think
I like decorating it in the yard.
Yeah, bring it home, cool. keep it alive, plant it, and then you've got one forever. So that's another way around the system. If you don't want a fake one, you don't want a one that's been cut.
You said there's smaller ones?
You can there's different size for sure.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah, and some of them are on their dwarf size, so you can get some where even at size at maturity, you don't have to like dedicate yourself. Oh, I just had a spruce tree that's going to be 50 feet tall. No. There's dwarfs that can stay quite a bit smaller than that, and will do really well. Conifers, I mean, we should probably do another episode on it just as a standalone. But the pines, the spruces, the firs, and whatnot, all your cone bearers, they're pretty cool. And I think there's a lot of benefit to bringing them into the landscapes for a number of reasons. So we'll have to dive into that in another future episode.
Well, you're reminding me of a couple weeks ago, we went to Dawn Gardens and met Barry Friesen, and he had the world's largest foothill pine.
Huge.
And that was such a cool specimen to be able to see.
Multi-trunked. I think it was like 160, 170 feet, which is really big for that
and like 100 feet
tree.
Wide.
Yeah, monster
in its canopy.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Very, very neat. Yeah, pines are cool. I really like also now the really twisty, I think the black pine, is that what it is?
Oh, there's black pines, the Austrian pines. There's ones that you can, the Mugo pine. There's all these different fun pines that you can play with and kind of contort. There's like cedars. that you can that look really cool. That can get some pretty interesting shapes.
Okay, well, we'll have to do an episode on it. But yeah, I'm just thinking about it because of all the Christmas trees, and trees in general have just been on my mind lately. I think starting way back with Ray, last week we had Ann Finkner. Before that, it's just been tree-tastic for me.
I'm fired up on them. I'm giving them actually as gifts to a few family members.
Cool.
Don't
listen.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. If you're listening, you might be getting a tree.
You might be getting a tree.
Yeah,
I like
for
that.
sure.
All right. But before we get out of here, Kevin, is there anything else you want to bring up? Is there anything else we should be thinking about in our gardens right now?
Well, even though we're right in the middle of the cool season, it's still for us, Zone 9B, 'tis the season to be gardening and growing.
Is it still?
So you would think there's not a lot of color out there, but there's so much. So if you want to bring a little color into your life up on the patio, the porch, or in your flower beds, consider, your pansies love the cool weather right now. The Iceland poppies will give you a little bit of height in that flower bed with those spindly little stems coming up.
Which one's that?
The Iceland poppies.
These
thin little noodle stems of the flowers come up with these fuzzy little kiwi-like flower buds that burst open with, these bright, vibrant oranges and tangerines and yellows and pinks and whites. They're beautiful. Cyclamen, cycle them in right now. So cyclamen, it's a flower so beautiful that it's ashamed of it, that it has to face down and put its petals to the sky. They're awesome. Reds, whites. You can get ones with variegated leaves. They do good in shady areas and containers. Cyclamen, beautiful.
So where
classy.
in the house this would be like in your
front porch, your patio, and you can pot them up. Any flower beds that are seasonal, that are empty, or if anywhere that you really want some color right now, the poppies, the pansies, the cyclamen, stock, ornamental kale and cabbage.
Really?
They're beautiful. So, they're not as tasty as their cousins, but they're more beautiful. They're kind of compact, a little more rounded, and purples and kind of purplish, kind of pink leaves and greens, and they're all ruffled up, almost like fabric. And then as the season progresses, you'll see them stretch and stretch and stretch and kind of get vertical. They're really weird, but it's kind of cool when you add them in because they're all mostly foliage, but they balance out when you have all this color of actual blossoms and petals. It's pretty cool. Like the little brother of the pansies, the viola.
Oh, yeah?
It looks like Pansy Jr. Those are really good, and you can use them similarly. Nice sunny area, even though it's cool weather. They can kind of tolerate our temps right now. And they'll do great all through the cool season. And then I don't rip them out until like mid-spring.
Really?
Springtime, when things warm up, then it's time to pull them out.
These are like pretty flowers, and they're
gorgeous.
They're doing good through like winter. That's really cool.
Yeah, they do. They love this cooler weather right now. They're into it. They're not really fazed by it. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. I love that. So wow, we can still be getting some pretty flowers and color in our yards.
It's great right now because we're getting these different weather patterns coming in. But every now and then we have these these blocks of dry days, and it's kind of like, the best time to get out into the garden and get work done. And the one thing I want to leave our listeners with today is don't forget, and I know we're right in the thick of things, and it's the holiday season, everyone's getting busy and whatnot, but start thinking about your spring and summer garden. Like right now, start planning it out, start getting some ideas going of what you want to grow, get your journal, your little garden book going, because it's a great time to start planning it out, finding your seeds, the varieties that you're going to hunt for. Get your hands on them now, whether it's in person in the store or through catalogs or whatever. It's a great time to think about your spring and summer gardens. I'm telling you.
All right.
Beautiful.
Well, thanks for going through it with me, Kevin. I had a great time talking about this stuff, and I hope our listeners did too. Go ahead and take us out.
Well, 'tis the season to be gardening. Fa la 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 la. There's so much to do and enjoy. We're in the middle of the cold season, and there's still so much to do out in the garden. So I wish all of our listeners the very best this holiday season. Please come back next week for more garden adventures. We're getting it after it, and I think we're leading into one of the best garden seasons ever. I'm looking forward to it. Happy gardening to you all, and please never stop growing.